Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram. So we have come to that, and I hope we can finish chapter 5 today. I think in your Bhakti Vriksha classes you are going really fast. It's chapter 6 is also over, I think. So that's nice. So let's try and finish chapter 5 today. And I welcome you all. I extend a warm welcome to each one of you to the level 2, the Pre-Bhakti Shastri course. And I would like to first pay my humble obeisances to the Radha Govinda, Sri Radha Govinda temple deities. And I would like to also pay my obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, based on whose teachings we are able to understand the scriptures to the little degree that we can understand. And pranam to everyone. All glories to Founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, and Temple President His Grace Namniksha Das Prabhu. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshadarane Om Ajnana Timran Dasatnana Jana Shalakya Chakshur Unmiladam Yana Dasme Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manu Bhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru, Shri Yuttapada Kavalam, Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha, Shri Rupam Sagara Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam, Sadavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Cha, He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kante Namosute, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे. So we had finished up to chapter the verse 12 last class. So we understood that Nishkam Karma Yoga, Krishna explains, is actually easier than renouncing work and taking up sannyas any day. And then he had also explained about how there are the false kind of sannyasis. And then he talks about in 5.7 to 5.12 how to perform the Nishkam Karma Yoga. And then we also, now today we are going to start looking at the 3 doers. Now this is a very beautiful concept of understanding that we are never the doer. So there are 3 doers involved. There are 3 things which have to happen for any action to take place. So it is very, very egoistic for us to think that something is happening because of us, either good or bad. So if you're going to be very thrilled that you are the person responsible for something, that is, totally because of your false ego, and you're not knowing the truth that there are 3 doers involved. There are 3 steps involved for anything to happen. And if you're lamenting and regretting about something that has happened and you think it is because of you, that is also a very egotistic view, because nothing really, you are not the sole cause of anything. So we will look a number of times to really understand how we need to internalize the idea, and that actually frees us tremendously. Once we really internalize the idea that we are never the doer, it becomes easier for us to follow the dictate given by Shri Krishna in the verse Karmanevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. That really putting it into practice becomes much easier if we really understand the true purport of the verses 5.13 to 16 about the 3 doers. And then we are going to look at liberation by focus on the super soul. So how is it that we are going to be focusing on the super soul, and we look at some of the symptoms of those who are liberated. And then we have two brief verses as an introduction to the next chapter, the Ashtanga Yoga. And finally, we are going to be ending in the bliss formula. So I hope we can finish sections 3, 4, 5, and 6. Section 3 is about the platform of knowledge, knowing the three doers. What is the first doer? The first doer is a living entity itself, that is a jiva. So the jiva is basically the Anu Atma. He is aware of his own body's activities, and he is having control only over his own body. Whereas the Lord is the Vibhu Atma, right? He is there present in everywhere and within every living entity, and having complete control over everything and everyone. So the doer number 2 is the material nature. So once we desire, our job is only desiring. We really can't do any action on our own. Unless the modes of material nature or Maya supports us in this material world, we cannot do any action. It is our total, false understanding that we are the ones doing the action. All the modes of material nature are actually getting things done. And they will not do a thing without the sanction of the Lord. And therefore, the ultimate sanction, the thing, will happen only with the sanction of the Lord. Of course, the Lord is totally detached and renounced. He's the highest renunciate. And so it's not like he is going to be attached to the, he's not going to be affected by these decisions, because they are solely decided by your own karmas and your own desires. But then, without the Lord's sanction, nothing happens. So that is a doer number 3. So we will go through all these sections, and understand them better. This particular part, that the soul, material nature, and the super soul, how they are connected. So enlightenment happens when you know the three doers in perspective. So then it is one of the major steps in self-realization, to understand that you are not the doer, you're not the sole doer. So the jiva only has the right to make a wish or a desire. And if it is a material desire, of course, it is only going to lead him to further entrampment in the material world. And if it is a spiritual desire, of course, it is going to lead him to his liberation from the circle of birth and death. The jiva has an option; he has a choice. Krishna gives everybody the choice, and as long as he doesn't have this knowledge, as long as he's in ignorance, he will be choosing to do actions which are going to lead him in a continue the cycle of birth and death. So ultimately, the jiva can only desire, and anything that he desires can be put to action only by the nature, only by material nature composed of the three modes. And the material nature of Maya is entirely, it's the energy of the Lord Himself. So if Krishna is the energetic, then Maya is energy. It's an expansion of the Lord Himself, and it's in complete control of the Lord, so of the Supreme Lord, or the Paramatma within every soul. So ultimately, the third and the most important, the primary doer in that sense is Paramatma. Although he doesn't get attached to the actions at all, or he's not really involved at all. He just allows the karma and the desires to play, but he has to sanction, without which it cannot happen. Maya cannot do a thing without the sanction of the Lord. So let's look at the first verse that we are studying today. It's 5.13. It goes like this. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. So when the embodied living beings controls his nature and mentally renounces all of actions, he resides in the city of 9 gates, which is a material body, neither working nor causing any work to be done. So what is happening is that what we see is that it says Sarva Karmani Manasa Sannyasa. Sarva Karmani Manasa. So Manasa is by the mind. And so determination actually comes from into the mind. Therefore, the determination is Manasa Asti Sukham Vasi. He has decided to work only for Krishna consciousness. Therefore, his happiness is under his control. Happiness is under, once he hasn't got to seek happiness externally. The happiness is controlled by him. Sukham Vasi Navadvare Pure Dehi Naiva Kurvan Nakarayam. So there are 9 holes in the body, and these are, and we are taking work through these 9 holes. So it's very clear. One thing we need to understand again and again is what we learned in chapter 2 is that we are not this body. Dware Pure Dehi. Pure means city. Like, for example, I belong to the city Jamshedpur. So Pure. Pur comes from the word, from the meaning, the root meaning is city or a room. So Navadware Pure. I am sitting within this room. Again, this is like a re-emphasis on the fact that we are the soul and we're sitting in this house or room which is taken on a rental basis. It doesn't belong to us. We're here for a small period of time, and this has 9 doors, just like basically the it's just like a rich man. He's sitting in his room and everything is going on. Similarly, the soul is in pure consciousness, in Krishna consciousness. He's aloof from the body, and everything is just going on, everything is just happening. So that is about this 5.13, and understanding a little more. What is a jiva? It is situated in the city of 9 gates. It's not working, or neither is it causing work to be done. It does not create any activities. It does not induce others to act. So we must understand the soul is not actually doing any action. Like I said, it's a witness. The soul is just like the super soul, in same as in quality. It's basically a witness, not in quantity, and does not create the fruits of action. Happiness or distress are coming only when we identify with the body. That is the reason why all the different happiness and sadness come. So these are very deep concepts. We need to be, revising it frequently and meditating upon it to really get the purport behind it. Ravi Prabhu has posted the attendance. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. All of you kindly please mark your attendance for the day. And when one renounces the results, that is when he or she lives happily. So again, and as we have seen, Arjuna is confused about akarma, the concept of akarma or inaction. That is his main reason for his confusion. He thinks that action need not be done. So what he didn't understand is that when there are no fruits to an action, Krishna is using the term akarma, which is like non-action. Then there is no more action being done. So that is another aspect of looking at the soul, that it doesn't do any action when it is doing akarma. So that's because it doesn't accrue any fruits, either positive or negative. So let's look at the doer 2 and doer 3, and in 5.14 and 5.15 verses. Na kar न कर्तृत्व न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All these different activities are entirely done by the modes of material nature. Now, this is a little, for me, I'm just a beginner in a devotional in the field of devotion. For me, it's a little, very difficult to really keep on remembering this point, that every action is done by these 3 modes of material nature, and how the entire, everything we see around us are just being done by these 3 modes. That is something that we need to internalize. So the second doer is basically material nature. In fact, everything is primarily done only by her. And then we can look in this verse in 5.15. We can see how the Lord, what is the Lord's role in it? Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. The Supreme Lord is totally, renunciate. He doesn't assume anybody's sinful or pious activities just because he's sanctioning the different the different actions that are being done by the material nature. It doesn't mean that Supreme Lord is also getting tied up in this karma, and either sinful or pious activities. But however, the jiva are bewildered because of the ignorance which is covering their real knowledge, due to which they get further and further entangled in the results of the action unless he or she performs akarma. And the moment he performs akarma, that is a moment he decides that whatever I'm doing right now, starting from my breathing or any action, my thoughts, I am offering it to the Lord, and then he is doing non-action, or he is in the state of inaction, which in that case the Maya will not act upon him. He or she becomes free from the fruits of action if he or she is doing akarma. So the Supreme Lord is the one who will sanction as to what has to, what Maya will get, what are the things that Maya will make happen. So understanding these three doers alone, just what we have now read about the three doers, about we not actually being the doer, is actually leads to enlightenment. So this is further reason for us to really meditate upon these verses and try to learn them and keep understanding them deeply. The second doer is the modes of material nature. They are doing the three modes: sattvagun, rajogun, and tamogun. These three modes, everything around us and are at every point of time influenced by any of these modes, unless there is Shuddha Sattva or pure goodness. So they are doing everything, but it has to be under the guidance of the Lord, because Maya is completely powerless. She has to get the sanction of the Lord before she does anything. And the super soul is the one sanctioning, but he is aloof. He's not attached or detached. He's aloof from all that. The Lord doesn't take responsibility for anybody's pious or impious activities. The soul is the one, the only thing that the soul's role is, he makes a choice. He desires, he wishes. And the Lord doesn't interfere, because if the Lord will interfere even upon the desire of the soul, then there is no need for the soul to exist separately at all in the first place. So the soul is given the limited will to desire and to make choices in which the Lord will not interfere. And thereafter, the Lord sanctions these desires as a living entity deserves. And the modes will, after that, after getting the sanction, only then the modes will start carrying things out. And this is knowledge in the mode of goodness. Knowing this is knowledge in the mode of goodness. This is understanding the three modes. So what do we see here? In 5.13, we saw that the role of the soul is the initiator. And in 5.14, we saw how the role of material nature as a facilitator of getting things.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am.
Hear me?
So, yeah. So my thing is that the modes will decide to do it once you desire. But what I'm asking is, don't you desire according to the mode you are in? Like, if I'm of Rajogun or Sattvagun or Tamagun, my desire itself will be based on that guna, right?
Yes,
It's not
yes.
that that guna will fulfill that desire. So first to start with, only my desire will be according to the guna I am more adhered towards,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, you're very right, Mataji. You're very right, Anjali Mataji. Your desire and the guna in which you're in will be very much linked. So that is
Okay.
why you have a choice. So basically, the desire that you have will be based on the mode that you have been feeding. So they are very much connected, and the Lord also says, the Lord's sanction also is again very much linked to your desire, as well as your the karmas that you have accrued, as well as the predominant mode in which you're in. But then when we say that nature is doing it, it's not only you, because you are not the person who will do it based on the guna in which you're in. It requires everybody around you. What are the different gunas they are in? The whole material nature around you are also influenced by so many other factors. So again, you cannot be the only person who has made the choice of being in this sattva gun or rajogun, and therefore nature will act only as per the node that you have chosen by. So it's not only that. There are again material nature involves everything around you, all the different people around you, your relationships with them, the things around you, what you have. So it's all so extremely interconnected. That's why when we say that, then we say that everything is interrelated and interconnected, because ultimately we are all part and parcel of Krishna. So understanding
But
that.
if you have the sanction of the Lord according to your desire, then everything around you also kind of gels in, and it makes manifests into your desire coming true, right? So it's not like if you have a desire and it is dependent on all the circumstances and around you, but if you have a desire according to your guna and it has the Lord's sanction, then everything else, irrespective of what the guna is outside, won't that also manifest to to
They will.
actually,
They will. In fact, that is what we hear about the power of manifestation, in fact. So
yeah,
actually
to fulfill.
they are all do fall in place as long as your desire is in sync with everything as is, as is in different positions. So the cause and effect law will apply in every way. And in fact, that is the reason why we also say that once you're in Vaikuntha, when you're free from all these three modes and you're no longer materially bound, then your every desire comes, it is fruitified immediately. There is no gap between your desire and your fruit, because you are then have reached a state of mind where you're totally in sync with with the Lord, and you're totally in harmony. So what they say is that once you reach Vaikuntha, or you become free from this material and gross body, then there will be no gap between your desiring and it's to happen, because the
So
Lord
what
actually
you're
follows the
really
devotee.
saying
That
is
is the
that
next level.
when you are in that mode of Vaikuntha, then even desire itself will hardly be there, right? It will be
That will
only
be, yeah, those
the
desires
highest.
will be transcendental. At that point of time, whatever you desire will be transcendental and in sync with whatever is needed. And so at that point of time, what they say is that Krishna will actually become a devotee of the devotee. So at that point of time,
So,
Krishna, he will not even think twice, because you're a pure devotee. So then
so
the cycle, it becomes, there's no cycle at all. It's like, it's everything is instantaneous. It's not like there won't be desire. The soul will never be in a state where there's no desire. The desire will be there, but then you're having transcendental desires. So that will
so
be the difference.
if you are one more, I'm sorry, I'm taking your time. I
No
mean,
problem.
no. So basically, we talk of destiny as Hindus, right? We talk of destiny and karmic,
Correct.
the karmic overflow in this life, and you have to complete that. So if that is the true, then actually, do you really have choices? Isn't it that your everything is like kind of really predestined, and you go with that?
So there is a whole description. I think we have done this in an earlier chapter. I can't recollect clearly, but there is this, the kind of the karma that you do, how long it takes to fruitify. So from your previous birth, the karma that you have done, you have no control over them. But every moment you are doing new karma, and that is going to be leading to what you are going to shape in the future. So that way you can't say that it is everything is predestined. It isn't predestined. Then there would be no point in all this. So what you're now facing and the circumstances you are in now, the kind of modes that you have been, feeding, and the kind of action, the kind of desires that you have been having, all that is entirely based on your past, definitely. But then right now, what the choices you will be making is going to influence your future. So we do have a choice. And then there is a solution which Krishna keeps on repeating, that the way for you to burn out all your past sins, or all your past these karma, the bandhans which you are bound with, which is making you do and think and desire based on your past, all that can be
Surrender.
washed away by devotional service. So in which what we have learned is that the chanting is for this Kali Yuga. Chanting is the biggest way, is the best way for us to burn all our past sins. If you have done some very huge sins, so recently I heard one senior devotee explaining this whole process. If in our past we have done, like small sins, all our little sins are done, prarabdha. It's called the prarabdha karma. What we have done earlier life, what we are bearing the fruit right now is from our earlier life. They will get washed off at the moment we start chanting, or we are doing devotional service, or we are in association of devotees, or we are serving Vaishnavas, or we are serving Guru, or we are reading scriptures. Any spiritual activity will wash off all those previous prarabdhas. But if it is, slightly bigger, it is slightly tougher for it. You need to do, more heavier spiritual service. But if it is something huge for which you're bearing very major consequences, perchance you've done some very grievous sins in your previous birth, and so you're right now under very difficult circumstances. And then if you're a devotee, then what Krishna says is that he actually comes and comes in the form of some way. He will come and try to help you, either to reduce your pain and allow you to finish it off fast, or he will come and support you in some way, and ultimately he may even take it upon himself, because once a devotee has decided that I want Krishna, and I am, I am a devotee, and I am soul. He has realized that, and my duty is to serve the Lord. My joy is in serving whatever it is. It's in devotional service, it's serving the Lord. He understands that. Then Krishna, he comes and supports you to make it your last birth. He will actually come and help you in making this your last birth. He will, even though you have done such grievous sins in the past. So whatever sins you have done, you have to bear the consequences. And right now what you're doing, you will bear. As long as, in case you're doing a karma, then there is no more further actions, and then you become a pure soul where you are entirely, in the doing working in the service of the Lord. Then you won't mind if you're put on the earth or heaven or hell, or whether Krishna chooses you to become one of the demigods, or he chooses you to come back and become a guru, and liberate other souls or whatever, because then you will just be following the flow of what Krishna wants you to do, because you are in complete surrender. So then that's when there'll be no, difference between what you desire and what happens. That is the high stage when you reach, when you become a pure devotee. Till then, there will be lusty desires, and we are, bound right now in this body, because we had envy and desires, right? So then, as long as we're not able to wash them off, and Krishna says the only way to wash them off is to be in devotional service, because when we are doing our dharma, or the soul's actual, natural thing to do is to serve. So when we start serving the Lord, and we start having that mode, that mindset that I am here to serve the Lord, then you start doing a karma. That is, you're no more doing any karma or vikarma. Then there is absolutely, no more reactions. Nothing in the future is going to be based on what you're doing. That's when we say that you're doing non-action. It's like, you're doing not, there's no more fruits for you to bear in future. You become free from the bondage. You become, what's that called, in this very body you become there's a word for it, a mukt, free. You become mukt in this very body. I don't know if I'm actually able to answer your question, or whether I'm
Yeah, great. It's great. Please carry on. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question somewhat?
Yeah, you did. But
Okay.
this thing, I always feel that we really have very limited choice, because whatever you do, it is really based on the past. And like you're saying, that you just start to do a karma and offer it to the Lord and surrender it. So even the karma of the past, if you just surrender, this is what I'm understanding. And if you surrender it and do every new action in the name of the Lord, then you don't bear the misfortune of a bad action, or you become more neutral towards the action and reaction process.
Right. So
This is
that
what
is
I'm
where,
understanding.
correct. That's what I was saying. Like basically,
Yeah.
it is in your choice lies in doing spiritual activities, or activities driven by material desires.
So for me personally, I mean, I just feel like when there is a choice and I know not better, I offer it to the Lord to make the correct choice for me,
Yes,
to
yes,
guide me
exactly.
in the best way.
Very true, Mataji. If you're able to reach that stage, nothing like
Yeah.
it. Because then Krishna
Yeah.
says, in that state of mind, even when you're doing something wrong, or which appears to be wrong, actually
Yeah.
it won't be wrong. It will be still a non-action, because you are devoted. So then there's no more worry, actually, if you're able to do that. And we are all striving to reach that stage, actually.
Yes.
Krishna is
Thank you.
motivating us to reach there. Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah. So who is a doer? We can't pinpoint any one as a doer. The jiva has the limited, freedom to desire. So there's a comparison of a cow being tied by a rope. So like Anjali Mataji was saying, there is no way the cow can just wander anywhere he wants. He is tied by a rope, and he can only do, move about that as much as the length of the rope allows him to. So we have quite limited choices. It is limited, but we do have that limited choice. And then the super soul will verify and sanction based on what the jiva has deserved to get that desire fulfilled. And then after the super soul's order has been order has been given to the material nature through the three modes, sattva, raja and tamo gun, then the fulfillment of the jiva's desires are taken care of. So who is a doer? All three. There are three doers. So we quickly look back at what we had understood about the soul, that is the Jivatma and the Paramatma, to understand as per what Madhvacharya has brought in that idea different from Adi Shankaracharya, who were talking about the monism, where you focus on the idea that you are one with the Lord, and then the duality where Madhvacharya brings in the higher point, the next step of understanding, which is we don't merge. Even if we merge, it will be temporary. So there is a difference between the soul and super soul. Both are eternal, both are blissful, but the soul will have to suffer based on how covered it is by Maya, how much it is covered by lust. Whereas the super soul is blissful and it is above all the three modes. And when the soul becomes purified and free from the covering of lust and Maya, then the super soul also is in a state of bliss and above the three modes, and so becomes equal in quality and one. That is why the reference of being one. You become one in quality, and you actually have all the divine qualities in you the moment you start becoming free from the lust and the cover of Maya. And the soul is at all points of time, as long as we are in this body, is cognizant only of his own body, whereas the super soul, of course, is cognizant of all bodies and everything around. And Anu, the soul is Anu, or basically atomic. It's very, very small in comparison to the huge, the vast and all-encompassing Lord. And therefore, the Lord is Vibhu, or he's omniscient, present everywhere, knowing everything. He's omniscient, he knows everything which is happening everywhere at all times. And our soul has minute independence to desire, but it is and is therefore dependent upon super soul, whereas the super soul, of course, is totally completely independent. So what have we seen over here? One who is in knowledge devotionally fixes his conscience. Once you get this knowledge, you will be consciously able to fix your consciousness on the super soul, and therefore what will be the result? You will actually find out that there will be no more duality. Very amazing thing. Every time duality comes, suppose you, okay, I like this heat, okay, now it's cold, I don't like it, I like this, I don't like this, I like this person, you see somebody, immediately this is a nice person, I don't like that. All that duality will totally disappear. So this is I feel it's very, very difficult in high stage to reach that level of mentality, of material equipoise, where you're able to just see everything as part and parcel of Krishna. And such a person will attain liberation in the near future. So let's look at 5.17. So 5.17 is saying, right, तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानः तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः. So what is that saying? When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the consciousness, in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. This is a very, very, beautiful thought for all of us to take away. Like how Anjali Mataji mentioned, you become completely free when you are in this mode. So when this knowledge is used, when you get this knowledge, and now you start focusing on the super soul, and then every action becomes transcendental with absolutely no material consequences. So enlightenment can lead to transcendence if it is focused on the super soul. So if you're able to focus on the super soul, then you can reach enlightenment. And this is a very, very famous verse. It says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shunichaiva Shvapake cha Panditaha Samadarshinaha. So this is what I just mentioned. The moment you reach that high state of mind, then you become a sage, and sages are always humble. Why are they humble? Because they have true knowledge. They have seen with equal vision. They're able to see whether you see another person who's learned, or you see another gentle brahmana, or you see a cow, an elephant, a dog, or a dog eater, or a chandala, which is considered to be a very outcast, a very low kind of a person. So whatever the person you see, a brahmana or an outcast, a cow, an elephant, or a dog, or even a dog eater, you are able to look at them with absolutely the same eye. When you become advanced in your spiritual knowledge, and only then you will be able to do like that. But just like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author says that in this material world, which is actually illusion, that is basically a material bondage, nobody is in goodness. Everyone is in trouble in this material world. So material calculation is that this is good, this is bad, this is happy, this is miserable. So in the transcendental position, what happens is that you start thinking that they're all equal. So those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity, as we will see in the next verse, 5.19, you start seeing everything as equally. Revising 5.17 and 18, person situated in Brahman, when he fixes his consciousness on the super soul, his intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all focused on the super soul. He becomes free from doubts because now he knows very clearly about the three doers. He sees the super soul is sanctioning, and he sees that the super soul is impartial in his sanctioning. And therefore, he sees with equal vision because he has knowledge that he is not the body, and he has knowledge that there is a super soul in control. So the symptoms of a self-realized person is what we'll be looking at 5.19 and 5.20. 5.19 says, Iheva terjitah sargo yesham samye sitam manah nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmanite sitaha न प्रहृष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढो ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः. So what are the symptoms of a self-realized person? Those whose minds are established in the sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. So actually this is very, very amazing. It's about conquering birth and death. Then you become free from birth and death. And they are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Once you become free, already situated in Brahman. And Brahman, that is a self. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor does he lament upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent. These are all symptoms of the person who is self-realized. Who is self-intelligent, unbewildered, and who knows this whole science of Krishna or Krishna consciousness is to be understood to always be situated in transcendence. So that is what 5.19 and 20 tell us. So the sarga is a repetition of birth, is due to a strong desire. Why is it that the birth and death is taking place in the first place? Is because of a strong desire for material enjoyment. So long as we don't discard the desire of material enjoyment, we have to take birth again repeatedly, either in the human form or maybe even as a demigod, or you can be born as a tiger, a dog, or whatever. So many forms are there. They're all different forms, different categories based on how much and what is the level of your desire for sense gratification. So one who develops, however, transcendental knowledge of Krishna consciousness, he therefore has no reason to come again or to take another body, and so he conquers death even in this life. So that is, the really amazing thing to understand. So Krishna is describing what is it that a person in this stage, how does he behave? Simply superficially, if you say, okay, now I'm in the Brahman stage, then it doesn't make sense. You may say that, oh, I have $100 million in the bank, but then what are you doing? And how do you know that you have it? You should be spending it, wisely. There should be some way of knowing that it's there, that you have reached there. So Krishna is giving us a symptom of how one situated in the Brahman behaves. He says that na prashet priyam prapya. When one is situated in Brahman consciousness or Krishna consciousness, suppose all of a sudden, he gets lots of money, suppose he's a poor man, all of a sudden he gets lots of money, then what happens to him? For example, once there is a story which Prabhupada mentions in one of his lectures. He says that there was a person very poor, and he was an ordinary man. Suddenly he came to know that lots of millions of dollars is there in his bank. And then he actually has a heart attack immediately. He can't even take that knowledge. So what we see here is that the poor ordinary man, when he understood that, he got shocked, and at once he died. In our present stage of life, we may be situated in different transcendental positions, and still, so long as the material body is there, we are materially connected. Under the circumstances, there are, there are so many requisitions that are needed. But one who is actually situated in the transcendental position, he has he does not become too happy. He is in a state of equanimity. That's what he is able to show. So will be, whatever he is gaining materially, he will neither rejoice upon achieving something very pleasant, nor will he lament upon getting something unpleasant. So he is a person who knows the science of God. That is the major symptom of a person who knows the science of God. The material conception, we do not want unfavorable things. Automatically, our mind is trying to move away from what is unfavorable. But the laws of nature are quite cruel. They will enforce upon us unfavorable things. We have learned about the three kleshas. However, you are taking care of yourself and your self-control, or whatever you do, you are taking your maybe adhyatmically you have no problem. Then you'll have some adi bhautik problems. Somebody else will come and disturb you, or you'll have adi daivik problems. There will be natural calamities. So unfavorable things will keep on coming. But when one is transcendently realized, he will not care anymore for anything unfavorable or favorable. So when the time will come, the favorable things will come, unfavorable things will come as per the law of nature. Let me be engaged in my service to the Lord, because now I know my real position. So that will be the very high level achieved by a transcendental self-realized person. So in 5.21, Krishna will further explain to us. He says, Bahya Sparsheshva Saktatma Vindatyatmani Yat Sukham Sabrahma Yoga Yuktatma Sukham Akshayam Ashnute. So what he's saying here is, such a liberated person is not attracted to any material sense pleasure, because he already knows that they're temporary. But he's always in trance. He will be in a high state of bliss at all times. He will be enjoying a very unique sort of pleasure within him. And in this way, a person, once he becomes self-realized, he will enjoy unlimited happiness. Why? Because he's able to concentrate on the supreme. He's able to be in the manmana bhavamad bhakto vadyaji mam namastu. In that high state of mind, he has already achieved. So that's how we have understood from 5.19 to 21. In 5.22, what we see is Krishna is telling us, ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः. An intelligent person does not part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So here we can see that our senses, actually human beings' senses, are actually very very strong. If you look at a little insect, he is attracted to the light by his sight. The sight of the light is attracting his attention, and then he goes to a fire and he gets killed by the heat of the fire. Likewise, we have the deer. The deer is attracted to beautiful music. So we can see hunters who play music, and the deer will be following the music and will be in a trance, and will be so entranced by the sound of it that he will get trapped by the hunter. And then we have this honeybees, which are attracted by the smell of this honey. They get the smell from a distance, and then they are so enchanted by it, and that they want to enjoy that material sense, and they come close to the lotus and they enjoy the honey till they forget that it has become evening, and they get entrapped when the lotus has closed, and they die within that lotus. And then we have this fish which has got such an abounding amount of food there in the water, but when he suddenly sees the fisherman's hook with some food there, he will foolishly go, and because of that urge to taste that or to eat that, he goes and he gets caught in the fisherman's net, and he has to meet his end. Likewise, the elephant is attracted by the female elephant, and he wants to, his desire to mate will drive him, and the female elephant is trained by the hunters, who actually create a hole which is covered, and the female will just go around the hole, but the male will go behind the female and ultimately fall in that hole, and that will be the end of his freedom with that. So this is what is happening in the material world. We are human beings, and therefore our senses are actually very very powerful. And we have looked at the verses Dhyayato Vishayan Punsa Sange Seshupajayate. These sense objects are very very appealing. They will be calling us again and again, the sense objects. But our mind is our senses are superior to a sense object, so we can actually keep our senses in control from the sense objects, because they're actually superior to that. Sangi Sangat Sanjayati Kama, and then you get attached. So what happens is that these are the 8 stages of fall we had learned in the earlier chapter. So then funds, the sense objects are there, your senses are getting attracted to that, your mind is getting is feeling lusty towards it and it wants it, and then you allow that to keep dwelling on your mind, and then you're feeling it, you really want it very badly, and then you become mentally deluded, and the delusion leads you to, and there is an anger in between, because any material desire will never satisfy you completely, because in the first place it is by nature like that. It will lead you to anger, you'll be mentally deluded, there'll be a loss of memory, you will not be able to remember what is right and wrong, you will lose your sense of understanding what is right and wrong, and then ultimately it will lead to a spiritual fall. So there are a lot of great people who have reached heights like Ajamila and others, who ultimately they are led to the fall. So the senses don't ever think that Maya is so easily conquerable. We need to always remember that human beings, all senses are very, very heightened, and so it is very difficult to conquer our senses, and so we need to be on our guard, and the simple way is to constantly be in devotional service, by which we can engage our senses, because our senses will always seek pleasure. So if we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, then is the only way by which we will be able to have our senses under control. So in 23, Krishna is explaining, Shaknoti haiva yah sodhum prak sharira vimokshanaat kama krodhodbhavam vegam sayuktah sa sukhi naraha. So he says, tolerate agitations till the end of life. Before giving up this present body, if you're able to tolerate the urges of your material senses, you're able to check the force of desire and anger and the resultant anger, such a person will become well situated and you will be happy in your life. So again, even in the earlier chapter 2 also, Krishna had said about tolerate. He says, Matra Sparsha Sukantiya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkada. But these are just coming and going. In the moment you realize that they're just coming and going, you will be able to reach a state where you can be free from all these dualities. It can be done through practice. How long do I have to tolerate all these pushing of senses? Anybody would like to say how long do we need to keep on tolerating and pushing senses? Till when do
All
we?
our life.
All our life. Perfect answer.
Till basically you come into that state of equanimity, till you give up the raga dvesha, you give up value judgments, you accept that you've come here
Yes.
on a mission. So
Till
till
you reach
then
that
or
high
till the end.
state, correct. Till you
Yeah.
get Brahman realization, it'll be there. As long as your body is there, actually these senses, the sensual urges will be there, and therefore you can engage them. Once you have this knowledge and your self-realize, you will engage your senses in the devotional service, so that it is not, left in the danger of getting attracted to the sense objects. Like I said, we
Yeah,
can't
but
underestimate Maya.
no, but yeah, so that's the thing, na. So that is why I say till the end of life, because you may be in that state, but at any point of time, a little bit of disbalance and you just fall, right? So
Correct.
you have to constantly be geared towards the same thing. Like you just give up all the lust, the obsession, and stay in that
Right.
state of stability, equanimity, and spirituality rather.
Exactly. Actually, what they say is that once you start enjoying the taste of being in that state, you will really not feel like, the sensual urges will not look that attractive, as as long as you are able to enjoy those higher state of bliss of serving the Lord, and that you reach that higher state of bliss, then these smaller sensual urges and these temporary happiness will really fade away in front of that. So
No, but like once you had said in one class, you said that, even for you, like I'm just giving your example, forgive me, but you said that if I don't go to the temple and I don't do my practices or I don't do, the routine that
right.
I'm used to towards Krishna consciousness, I also feel that tamas comes in, certain
Yes,
amount. So it's not a done thing, na, that you have to constantly be working on it till you're alive, right?
Yes, yes, that is true. That is very true. There is a story actually, when the human goal actually, the first thing we have to be really thankful that you've reached this position where we can have, people to discuss, because otherwise most people you can't discuss such things. So there is a story in the Ramayana where Lord Ram, where Dashratha, he meets the Vishwamitra, and he has come to, basically take Rama to kill the Asuras. And when he meets, and when Vishwamitra, when he meets when Dasharatha, when he meets Vishwamitra, he says, he uses this statement. He says, Aihistam yat tam punar janma jayaya jayaya. He uses that statement. And what he's asking is everything going well in your endeavor to conquer the repetition of birth and death? So it's like, when worldly people, okay, how are you? How's everything going? And then here we have Dasharatha asking this sage. He's saying, okay, so how far have you, have you achieved your, aim of conquering death? So basically, that is the idea. To that height of understanding that this human birth, our business is actually to understand how to conquer this whole circle of life and of birth and death. So that,
Can I ask you a question?
yes, yes, Mataji.
So the thing is, I know the question is for after, but right now I just feel like I need to ask you this: that see,
Yes.
Yog Vasishtha, there he says, how Lord Rama gets his enlightenment, and he also struggles towards it in the human form in Yog Vasishtha.
Correct.
But what I'm saying is, as a Lord, it's no judgment towards him, but I just don't understand that concept. So since you are so much more informed, Lord Ram, he kind of renounced his own wife, his children, because of social pressure. And how does that become okay? How is that okay? I mean, I don't understand it, so I'm asking you. This
Yes,
always
yes.
bothers me.
Yes, yes, ma'am. This is actually a concept which
He
has,
he
yeah.
uh, he deceitfully sends a pregnant woman into the forest to be left over there. Whether he knows Valmiki is there or not, I do not know. But Lakshman commits a further crime by abetting his brother's wishes, which he doesn't want to do. How does that absolve him as a god and make him a god then? Is what I'm asking.
Yes, yes, Mataji. This is actually a question that had been, that has been around, and many people are really feel very upset about this part of the Ramayana. But there is a very beautiful explanation which was given, and I'm just failing to understand, to be able to use the exact words which I had heard, which was very very convincing actually. So Maharaj, this question I'll come back with for tomorrow, because I had noted it down somewhere. I found this answer given very very convincingly by in one of these sessions which I was listening to. So first of all, it is that I need to go through that again, because I
Don't do it
feel
tomorrow. Don't do it tomorrow. I'm at the airport during the class time. Do it next time after
Okay,
that.
okay, Mataji. I also just
So,
searched for that
yeah,
information, which I had
yeah,
also found the answer to. And at that point of
yeah.
time, I was very convinced, and I really liked the way that answer was given.
I
Because
would love
I
to know,
I don't want to attempt it
because
on my own, so I
no,
will go
no,
back
no,
and
no,
come back to it again.
no. So,
That's a
but not tomorrow because I won't be able to make it. I'm at the airport.
yeah.
Hopefully, I try. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So that's a homework for me. So a person who is able to tolerate how long does he tolerate? In answer to that, he engages in purifying his external activities by working for the benefit of others, and then one is assured of liberation. So these are some of the ideas put here. You're going to use your senses in devotional service, and then you're going to be able to um, tolerate these urges, which are very very powerful. Maya is very very powerfully behind you to keep testing you, so that you're really good enough to go back to spiritual world. You've really conquered your envy and your lust. So when a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is a fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as a supreme enjoyer and a supreme proprietor and a supreme friend. So we're getting closer and closer to the verse, which is going to be the peace formula, and therefore these verses are just leading to that peace formula. That was 5.25. Let's look at let's look at the next verse. 5.26 says that those who are thus free from anger and those who are free from anger and from all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. And that brings us to the verse about this becomes the next section, which is about liberation. It's about Ashtanga Yoga, right? 5.27 and 28 are about Ashtanga, which is telling us about the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, that they also do give the same kind of liberation as the other three yogas. It says, Sparshan kritva bahir bahyan chakshuschaivantare bhruvoho prana pano samo kritva nasabhyantara charino yatendriya mano buddhir munir moksha parayanaha विगतेक्षा भय क्रोधो यः सदा मुक्त एव सः. The practice of Ashtanga Yoga gives us the same kind of liberation. These are the two verses I just read out. It means that you need to first shut out all your external sense objects, which is a very tough thing to do. Therefore, Krishna will be, telling us in future how it's much, much easier to just be in bhakti and in complete devotional love for him. But this is another process. You can shut out all your external sense objects. It's a bit artificial. You need to keep your eyes and your vision concentrated between the two eyebrows and suspend the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus you have to control your mind, your senses, and intelligence. And the transcendentalist who aims at this kind of liberation, he does become free from desire, fear, and anger. And one who's always in this state is certainly liberated. But then there is a chance to fall, which Krishna will be explaining later. We have heard of many, many senior devotees who have, like, for years been in this state. We won't call them devotees, they are yogis who have reached the yogis in the sense that they've been doing Ashtanga Yoga for years, and then there is some kind of a small little attraction which causes the downfall for them. So then that is the way it goes when it comes to Ashtanga Yoga. It's very, very difficult. We are not infallible like the Lord, so we stay fallible, and therefore controlling everything to that extent chances of fall is quite high. And then we come to the last verse of this chapter 5. It's peace on the platform of liberation. A person who is in full consciousness of Krishna, he attains liberation from the pangs of all material miseries. And the verse is very, very beautiful. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam nyatva mam shanti mrichhati. So this verse is telling us that the sages and the sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerity. So we have learned about so many sacrifices, ways of yajna in chapter 4, and we know that everything actually leads to Krishna. So the sages know that the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities is the Supreme Lord. And he is the Supreme Lord of all planets and of the demigods. And he is, when you look at him only as a supreme enjoyer and supreme controller, that tiny bit of envy would come, okay, why is he a supreme enjoyer? But then when you look at the second part where he says, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, your heart will melt. Because then you look at Krishna telling you that I am your greatest benefactor and your greatest well-wisher of all living entities. So there is no well-wisher as the Lord. So whatever comes to you, when you know that he is giving it to you, nothing is coming without his sanction, you will be able to accept everything, and then you will automatically attain peace from all the pangs of material miseries. So this verse is really worth learning and really worth concentrating and contemplating upon. And so I think it's a good verse to end with. Let us keep this verse in mind till we start the chapter 6 tomorrow. And so we have completed with these 6 sections of chapter 5. And next week tomorrow we will start with chapter 6. Anybody would like to share something? We have ended on the dot 8 today. I have finished chapter 5. Any sharing anyone has?
No, thank you so much. I just want to tell you I may not be able to attend tomorrow. So
okay, Mataji. So we'll miss you tomorrow. But chapter 6 is basically Ashtanga Yoga, and we'll look at how Krishna will explain the whole process of Ashtanga Yoga, and ultimately he will come to the conclusion that it is a longer process, although it is a process which leads to the same destination.
But you'll record it, right?
Yes, it will be there on the YouTube channel.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Pancha kalpataru kripa sindhu eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna, everyone. See you tomorrow with chapter 6.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.